Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's another edition of the SBK Betting Podcast, joined by Ross Miller and Tom Collins as ever. It's the last episode of January as we get into the real good stuff of National Hunt Racing. And we've got plenty to get through this week. And we have, of course, the Dublin Racing Festival, the real showdown. Or will it be a showdown of the best of the Irish? And there is a few British runners this time around, but it's probably been a little bit weakened by the fact that many are sidestepping that festival. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but before that, we've also got good action at Sandown. We're coming off the back of the trials weekend at Cheltenham, where we saw Constitution Hill Stuff nearly give us a bit of a minor heart attack at the last, but it was ever so easy for him, uncomplicated all the way round, much to the delights of TC and Ross. A pretty obvious selection, but we'll give them that anyway. Well, but we want more winners this week. We've got 4 races to get through, and with that in mind, SBK are offering a free Saturday racing ACCA, 4 legs. You've got to opt in, and there's a 20% Saturday racing ACCA boost. So again, 4 legs and opt in. So with that in mind, we've got 4 races to preview for you, 2 from Sandown and 2 at Leopardstown, as we do sometimes can be forgotten. Even though that Ireland have 8 Grade 1s on over the course of Saturday and Sunday, we've got our very own Grade 1 that is attracted 4 runners. That's the Scilly Novices Chase at Sandown on Saturday at 2:35. This might be probably quite a quick preview. Sadly, it's not been an overly competitive look to this race, but we did have a bit of a surprise winner in Nickelback last year. Django Bay at 5-4 on, Handstands 5-2, Caliph to Burley 7-2, and Mark of Gold in there as well. Is it, Ross, as straightforward as Django Bay just wins, or do we have a bit of a competitive 4-runner field?
I think it's a competitive race, Jess, and I don't always subscribe to this. You need big fields for competitive and enthralling races. I mean, if Brighter Days Ahead was in a match for Constitution Hill at Cheltenham in the Champion Hurdle, we'd all turn up to watch it. Django Bay was really impressive on his chase debut at Cheltenham. You know, Nicky Henderson says he doesn't like going there. It was a sign in itself that this horse obviously schooled very well, that they went there for his debut, and he jumped beautifully, put away Springwell Bay pretty comfortably, around about 7 lengths, but he was getting £8. I think that needs to be factored in. Springwell Bay's come out and won since. He's the logical favourite. The issue I have with him is this ground, given that he was pretty fresh and keen at Cheltenham. Yes, he stayed well, but the ground was nice and fresh there. This is going to be really testing. You know, they survived an inspection this morning, and he's had 50 days, so he is going to be what they would have lost in freshness from having that first run. I think you could argue is going to have crept back in again. The track will suit him, you know, the fence is down the back, but I just wondered whether he might be a bit fresh. It was a race I wasn't keen to play in until I saw the prices: 4-5 about Django Bay, 7-2 about Caliph de Burley, and I do see it as a 2-horse race. I dismiss Handstands. I know he won the toe time last time, but I still have concerns with his jumping. He doesn't always look confident in what he's doing. He can be a bit ponderous, and if he gets in a bit of a muddle down the back, his jumping could fall apart. I know he beat Django Bay in the Sydney Banks last year, but that was over hurdles, and he was getting £5. I really like Caliph de Burley. I think he's a really impressive horse. He was going to win at Carlisle when taking a liberty with the third from home and came down, but he learned from that. Went to Newbury. I thought his jumping took a while to warm up, having had the fall, but I don't think that was a bad thing. And he was well on top at the end, for all that he only got home by about 1.5 lengths. The ground was pretty lively there. Then he went to Cheltenham on slower ground, and he was really, really impressive in beating Vincenzio. Vincenzio has since come out and won a decent handicap at Sandown by a decent distance as well. I think he's a good horse. Caliph de Burley put him away really well, had good hurdling form. I think he'll improve the step up in trip. I think he'll like the ground. And just at the price in a race that I was prepared to sort of not have too much of an opinion, I think there's too much disparity between them. You would just have to flag up that Paul Nicholls lost his gallop at the start of the week. That just niggles at me whether they're going to be fit enough. He's got other gallops he can use. And his traditional hill gallop was fine. I just slightly worry about that. But I think Caliph Burley is a really progressive horse. He's gone a bit under the radar because everyone's been pretty keen, quite rightly, I think, to throw stones at Paul Nicholls and his recruitment, which has been poor for the money they've spent. Caliph de Burley might be the anomaly in that. I think he's a really smart horse. They're bringing him along slowly, and I think he could beat Django Bay if Django Bay is a bit fresh.
Yeah, you feel like Paul Nicholls really just needs this one. He got close with Stage Star, just being beaten, and probably, I shouldn't have said just, probably fair and square in the end by Lon Press, but gave him a very good run in the Cotswold Chase. He's not as got the class of Lon Press, who actually ironically won this race back in 2022. But Caliph de Burle, they sort of need a real flag bearer. Whether he's going to disrupt a Cheltenham Festival betting market if he was to win this, that might we'll see. But it's probably, as Ross has rightly said, Tom, a good quality lineup, albeit small. You got horses with, decent level of novice chase form here, but Django Bay did something unusual from a Nicky Henderson perspective anyway, introducing him in Cheltenham in a race of that nature for the first time he'd ever run over fences, a horse that has clearly got more ability you'd even imagine, or more potential over big obstacles.
Yeah, I loved how he jumped as well over fences at Cheltenham. And it's not the easiest track, as Ross and you have both alluded to, especially for a novice chaser. He's still learning the game. He was very clever when he got in tight. And when he was far enough away from the fence, he flew them. So I thought that was a great start to his chasing career. He just looks like a horse with unlimited upside right now. And albeit I respect handstands and Caliph de Burle, I think Django Bay is just a cut above, isn't he? He's only got £1 superior to Caliph de Burle on official figures, £9 when it comes to handstands. But he's just open to so much improvement. Last year as a hurdler, he was extremely consistent. And this year, it looks like he's going to go from strength to strength. And the thing with Django Bay that I love was how he picked up after the last fence at Cheltenham, going up the hill. He is a strong stayer with a good turn of foot, and I think that's going to stand him in great stead in top company. So I expect him to win this. I think he'll go up a short price, shorter than what we've currently got on offer at around 4 to 5. I think it'll be more a 4 to 6, 8 to 13 chance, and I will be betting him at the current price, not the SP.
Yeah, I also think there's an element that he's proven over the trip. I think handstands is proven, but they sort of been playing up with it. You don't really know what he wants. Caliph de Burle is yet to be really stretched out as well. So that might be an element if this ground is quite testing, and we've seen what they've sort of gone through, inspections and question marks about what we're going to get. And we know that Sandown can be very deep indeed. So confidence for Django Bay from Tom, and Caliph de Burle for Ross in that Grade 1 Scilly Isles Novices Chase at Sandown on Saturday. We're going to keep at Sandown before we move over to Ireland for the first day of the Dublin Racing Festival. And we're going to go to the Masters Handicap Chase, 342. It's over 3 miles. And I just think you can't not love this sort of story. David Maxwell, I know that Ross is big keen fan of it, as sort of such an enthusiastic character for our sport. Now no longer has his claim, but he's got a serious horse in Indoor who's looking to remain unbeaten over fences. He's headed up in the weights, and he's taking on a good group of horses. Gustavian, the old boy, he's still going strong. He's 4 to 1 for this. I should say Indoors 3 to 1. Gelino Bello 6 to 1. Dreaming Blue 13 to 2. O'Connell is 7 to 1, as is Sham Blue. Bigger prices the rest of them. But Ross, as I mentioned, this could be a slightly different horse for David Maxwell. I know that he's got money to spend to go and find horses to run and things in like the Grand National, have a bit of fun. This is going from having a bit of fun to having a really serious horse on his hands that just sort of makes the game that little bit more exciting. But he probably does as much for David as you'd want. He jumps so brilliantly, and David's just sort of really a passenger. It was great to see that, Ascot.
Yeah, I thought he gave him a good ride at Ascot. I was really disappointed. Josh Apiapi, I thought, took a cheap shot about the fact that he was, the horse was in charge at the last fence. That's what every jockey will do, is keep the revs up, let them decide what they're going to want to do. He slipped his reins. He was in a good balance. I thought it was really unfair and unnecessary. For all that, he makes mistakes, and we know that, and it needs to be factored into the price. That's my issue with this here. I'm not sure the Maxwell factor is factored into the price here. He's going up in trip. This is going to be a test. I think his skills are going to be stretched in terms of judging pace. I'd love to see him win it, but I just couldn't put him up. I like Gelino Bello. It takes a little bit of sort of finding, really, but he was a very good novice hurdler. He won the Sefton Grade 1 at Aintree over 3 miles, was highly touted into his novice chase campaign, started off really well, wins at Wetherby and Exeter, then took an absolutely crashing fall, when still in contention in the Corto Star in 2023. He's been away for nigh on 2 years. having pulled up in the Cleve after that. Actually, they went back hurdling. That didn't work out. 2 years off. I thought he made a really nice return over hurdles at Wincanton over Christmas. Wasn't given a hard time. He's dropped from a mark of 148, and I thought he was well handicapped off 148 down to 141. I think this looks like this has been a little bit of a plan to go over hurdles, get him fit, and then come for this. Like I said, Paul Nicholls, hopefully stage star, put a bit of fire in their belly. I thought Harry Cotton's looked a bit sort of surly this year with things not quite going his own way. Hopefully he's got a little bit more zip about him. I think Julian Obello will stay. He'll like the ground. He's a sound jumper. I thought he was well handicapped off 141. And if Nicholls can turn the corner, I thought he was an interesting horse.
Okay, Julian Obello for another good effort, but really for Paul Nicholls and on a weekend that could be important. Tom, what do you like in here?
There are a fair few front runners in this lineup, I thought. So I wanted to be the closer. And the only closer that I could really come down on with a winning chance was O'Connell. Now, I think this could, obviously the ground's extremely testing as a fly lands on my face. They're going to be going hard up front, and half of this field aren't going to stay. I think David Maxwell may get a little bit too enthusiastic in the early part of the race as well, considering indoor can take a keen hold. And I just thought O'Connell was the one that could pounce late. He's a strong stayer. He won the Lincolnshire National last time up over 3 mile 3. This trip will prove no problem for him. And considering his connections aren't, the most well known, I think he's going to go for a fair price. The current 7-1 represents good value, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was half those odds come off time. So I'll take O'Connell, and hopefully he can rack up the hat trick.
Okay, O'Connell, Julian Obello, these are horses that you can include in if you want to that free Saturday racing ACCA, I should say, that SBK are offering. There's also that 20% Saturday racing ACCA boost. So you've got 4 legs. So you've got 2 options at this stage from 2 different races. We're now going to focus on the Dublin Racing Festival. We've got 2 races. We could have chosen any of them, but as we want to get into the really good stuff, there's 8 grade 1s. So we've gone for a couple of them. You've got to keep an eye on this meeting when you're thinking about the Cheltenham Festival. 3 subsequent festival winners won on this day, the Saturday, this time last year. Galopin Deschamps being one of them. He'll be back. Willie Mullins has 5 out of the 7, I think it is, favourites currently on Saturday. 6 out of the 8 favourites on Sunday. It could be a Willie Mullins display. There were a few surprises last year. I wonder if we're going to have a surprise in the Irish Arkle novice chase, because Majbra 2-1 on. He looks like the biggest threat to Sergino at the moment, and they'll hope to put down their marker of what they have on offer. There's also Il Atlantique, who's no Marg at all. He's 7-2. Touched Me Not is in there. Firefox, and the massive Janot Lapin for Gerard O'Loughlin, who won his biggest chase at 150-1. That's a great story, and awesome to have him in there. And Here Comes Georgie also makes up the lineup. TC, I'll come to you first. Majbra. What do we know about him? He's not run a huge amount. He's probably the Irish's answer to Sergino. Is he as good?
No, but Sergino is exceptional. Majbra could be exceptional, but he's obviously still very raw at this stage, only had the 3 outings. Last year, he proved he could easily become the real deal by winning the Triumph. And I thought he jumped really well on his chase debut this season. As I say, he's raw, he's immature, but he's got lots of upside. And surely this is just a case of best horse wins race. I mean, Willie Mullins has won this 7 times in the last 10 years. And if I read down some of the horses that he's actually won this race with, it's remarkable. Underso, Duvan, Footpad, Energamine, Blue Lord, El Fabiolo, Ilate Tom. I mean, it's a fantastic roll of honour. And I think Majbra will add his name to that list. It's just not the best of races, is it? You listed some promising horses there, but the likes of Firefox and Touch Me Not, they can't jump. Il Atlantique, I just think, is a B grade horse. Majbra has the capability of being an A grade or even A plus. So give me the favourite. I know it's completely unoriginal, but I think he'll win.
Okay, Majbra. I mean, the price confirms the confidence that many will have around him, Ross. So you got to find a very good angle, I suppose, or maybe a chink in his armour to be against him. Can you find one?
No, I can't. I think he's a worthy favourite, and I completely understand why he's the price he is. I would point out that Tully Hill and Asian Master are behind him on his debut at Fairhouse. They've both been beaten since. They ran 2nd and 3rd, and ran to about the same sort of level behind Mr. Giff, who's not even entered in this. So you could just question what he achieved on his debut at Fairhouse, but he jumped immaculately, had a really high racing IQ jump index. It was in the 9s, which is unheard of for a novice. It was really good. I find very little against him. If I'm trying to find something against him, I would say he was beaten at this track last year. For all that was his Irish debut. I'm sure he stepped forward. He certainly stepped forward going into Cheltenham. I just, at the prices, I think Atlantique has been priced up on this myth that he's soft and he can't put runs together at 7-2. And I think he's been priced up on his hurdle form. And he couldn't put back-to-back runs together over hurdles. He was really tricky to sort of predict. He looked a bit soft at times. But I think you have to take horses in isolation. When they change grades, he's a year older, he's a big horse, he's arguably a year stronger. I really like what he's done so far over fences, winning at Naas and at Navan. Last time at Navan, he thumped Firefox and in the pocket. He jumped immaculately. He coped with the ground. He stayed really strongly. Now, he might not be as good as Majborough, and TC might be right. He might just be a sort of second grade horse. But he's a second string, but he's not got the second string jockey on because he's got Paul Town in because Mark Walsh obviously riding for JP. So that doesn't put me off quite so much. I just think that it's an overreaction. His price at 7-2 against 2-1 on. He's got a bit more experience. Yes, he couldn't put runs together last season, but he's already put 2 together this year over fences. So why can't he put 3 together? I just thought at a price I would take a chance with him, for all that I would hold my hands up if he gets slammed by Majborough and say, yeah, I back the second best horse in the race.
Okay. Don't forget, Majborough, the only time he's been beaten in Ireland is when he ran at Leopardstown this time last year, when he was beaten by Carguess. And I suppose it was his first time running for new connections in a new environment. But Leopardstown, for whatever reason, didn't see him winning, where he's gone on to one at Cheltenham and Fairyhouse. But Atlantique, if you prefer that at that price, Ross is keen on him. And Majborough, if you're with the favourites, so is Tom for that Irish Arkle, excuse me, novice chase. Now we'll head into the big one, the Irish Gold Cup. Now this is the clash that I suppose everyone's really eager to see on Saturday. This is Galopin des Champs up against an old friend now. Well, I shouldn't say old because he's only an 8-year-old, but they've been up against each other twice already this season. Galopin des Champs come out on top. Fat Far's come out on top. They're sort of one apiece. But Galopin des Champs, he's in his playground and he's 7-4 on to win again at Leopardstown after we will never forget the performance he put up over Christmas time. Fat Far's, as said, still in there. Monty Star, Embassy Gardens. I know the way you're thinking. Hewick as well. He's in there too. The question is, can Galopin des Champs do it again? Or is Fat Defile maybe with Mark Walsh just sort of working out how to beat the likes of him on his favourite track that could just sort of sway it this time around? Tom, what do you think? How does Mark Walsh go about and try and hunt down a Galopin des Champs?
Well, it's an interesting matchup, isn't it? It's probably the best race of the day in terms of we get to see 2 top quality horses go head to head, and both have unlimited upside. The media hype around Galopin des Champs is exponential, but that is kind of matched with his ability on the track. And last time in the Savills chase, he did prove that he was back to his very best after a pretty disappointing run in the John Durkan, albeit first time up this year when Fat Far beat him. I don't think necessarily too much separates the two, but if you go back and watch the Savills, Fat Far was just never given a chance to win. You can't just gift Galopin des Champs 3 lengths advantage out in front with no pace pressure and then try to back run him. Impossible, especially at Leopardstown. It's not going to happen. This time, either there needs to be a horse that takes Galopin des Champs on in the early part of the race, which could be Embassy Gardens, maybe, or Mark Walsh needs to sit a lot closer to the speed. He can't give that same kind of leeway once again. The market is coming down on Galopin des Champs, and rightly so. He should be the short price favourite. He is the most likely winner. But I'm going to stick with my guns, be the outlier once again, and go with Fat Defile. I've loved this horse since he was a bumper performer a couple of years back. Last year at the start of the season, I put him up as my novice chaser to follow before it was even said that he was going chasing rather than hurdling, and he became the best in that division. And I think he's capable of being the best in this division in open company as well. He's yet to prove it. Galopin des Champs is at the top of that kind of table, whereas Fat Defile was just below. But I still think there's a lot of upside to him, and the difference in price is just wrong. Providing he's given a chance to actually beat Galopin des Champs this time, I'll bet him without the favourite as well at a shorter price. I think that's a very safe play. He's quite clearly better than the remainder of the field. But I'll also have a small dabble on him to win in the outright market as well.
Okay, so this is all about, Ross, whether there is a way, the jockeys can find a way to sort of, I suppose, not gang up on him, on Paul Townend, because Paul Townend will, I'd imagine, will outsmart them all and probably feel comfortable whatever he can do. He's a pretty uncomplicated horse, Galopin des Champs. So if he is beaten for the lead, I kind of feel like he can still happily hunt around in behind. Or is that the wrong view? Does he have to go out in one sort of way? Is it going to be pretty difficult to sort of find an area, a way to sort of pass him or a way to really beat him at Leopardstown.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult. I mean, Embassy Gardens might go forward, in which case Paul Townend will take a lead, won't he? All he needs is a strong pace, and if no one else is going to set it, he'll happily set it. If someone else sets it, he'll drop in. I struggle to, and I was really interested to see how TC would approach it, having seen what his selection was, because I tried really hard. I don't like putting up odds on shots. I tried really hard to find an angle at how Fatfar would reverse it. I just don't see it, because he was too keen last time. That's why they said he didn't get home. Galopin des Champs was 7.5 lengths clear. It would have been 17.5 lengths clear if they went an extra furlong. So if Mark Walsh got to settle him better, he's going to be further behind. TC is absolutely right. That's not the way to beat Galopin des Champs. You've got to be closer. I don't think you can be closer and settle him. And the other issue I have is when you settle Factifile, he gets a bit lethargic in his jumping. His jumping was really good last time because the revs were high the whole way. Galopin des Champs can show scopy jumps from fairly low revs. Factifile can show scopy jumps, but he has to have the revs, in my opinion. I struggle to see how they reverse it. The ground's going to be a bit slower. That'll make it more of a stamina test. That'll suit Galopin des Champs. I'm yet to be convinced that Factifile stays this trip in a truly run race, because I don't think he was absolutely full of it when he finished the Browns last year. I think he's a 2.5 mile horse. I hope he gets beat here and get beaten well, because I've backed him for the Ryanair at the Cheltenham Festival anti-post, and if he runs closer here, he'll go to the Gold Cup, of course. So 4 to 7 is short, but I think Galopin des Champs is going to win this. I would just throw Embassy Gardens in. I know. And TC's quite right. When you're backing each way, if you're backing each way for one place, it's not always smart. And I think he is running for third. But I really like Embassy Gardens. He was really good in the New Year's Day chase at Tremor. Gave £6 and 5 lengths to Monty Star under a good ride. I liked him last year. He didn't give his running in the National Hunt chase. He had an irregular heartbeat. Then they rushed him back, which I don't think was the smartest thing to do. And he ran at Punchdown Run, no sort of race at all. He's a very good jumper, strong galloper. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet, and he could run into the frame. And if they try and change him with Factifile and make him less energy efficient by sitting closer, you might get the better of him as well. So 10 to 1 each way for Embassy Gardens. I didn't think was the worst each way bet either.
Okay, I wasn't expecting a angle sort of in outside of the Galopin des Champs camp, but I get the opinion that there's a lot of respect for him. But if this is the time that the jockeys are kind of pulling up their socks and working out what they can do just to see if we can beat him and make it a proper horse race. And I'm sure TC will be really gunning on the likes of Mark Walsh to show off what Factifile can do and not disappoint the horse either. I do believe in that. So very interesting race this could be. Factifile, a lot of respect for Galopin des Champs. Embassy Gardens though has got a good each way shout from Ross's opinion. Right, we've rattled through those 4 races to give you a bit of a feature, a bit of a preview around the best that we have got on offer. But I suppose it's not really just the best. There's plenty of more top quality racing that we could choose from. So we'll head back to Ross now for your nap and next best selection for Saturday's racing across Ireland, I suppose, and maybe back to Sandown.
Yeah, Sandown and Musselburgh for my two, actually. The Nat comes in a 307 from Sandown. Henri the second for Paul Nicholls, Harry Cobden. I love this horse. I actually saw him live at Chepstow for his bumper. He's just the most gorgeous horse. Followed him in and out. Was adamant he'd make up into a real top-class chaser, because that's the stamp he was. He had one run over fences season before last and ran deplorably at Sandown, barely jumped a fence. But he wasn't seen after that for a year, so maybe things weren't quite right. He returned over 2 mile 4 at Sandown on pretty lively ground, stayed on into 4th under quite a sort of gentle seasonal introduction early this season, then went back and absolutely took apart a 3 mile handicap hurdle. He tanked around, turning in. He was the only horse who could win it, but often with Sandown, when they go that well turning in, they sometimes don't get home, because it is a long way home if you're racing that keenly. But he did. He just kept on going. The runner-up has won again since, is now rated 126, which is £5 higher. Third place Super Survivor has won twice, is also £5 higher. Henri II had them absolutely covered. He's £8 higher mark, but he had Freddie Gingelon, which was £3, so it's effectively £11 higher. But he loves this track. He'll love this ground. If Paul Nicholls is starting to get them back into a bit of form, I thought he was a lively one there. And he hasn't got top weight, because Charles Burnson over shoot first, so he's top weight. So he does get a nice racing weight. And then my next best comes in the 250 at Musselburgh for Harry Derham, and it's Fidelo Vallis. He won this Scottish champion champion chase last year off a mark of 140 on what was his 3rd start of the season, under Alice Stevens claiming £5. He carried 11 stone 9 on that occasion. He now returns there, having dropped from 148 back down to 140. Third start of the year, off a mark of 140 with Alice Stevens on. She only claims 3 this time, but he only carries 11 stone 4. And he's got the addition of first time cheap pieces. I think his whole season's been built around this. He loves Musselburgh. He's run there 3 times. He's won once, been second twice, ran very well on each occasion. Harry Dent had a really tough year. As we know, he lost his gallop earlier in the winter. His former boss, has now lost his gallop as well. But they're just starting to bounce back to a bit of form. It's been pretty slim pickings through January, but I think they've been running into form. And I read that he said that the jockeys are coming back and saying they travel really well to 2 out and then they just take a bit of a blow. If Fidelio Vallis has stepped forward, I think this is his Gold Cup. And I think he'll win the 250 at Musselburgh.
Okay, thank you very much. So good weekend all round. You hope for Paul Nicholls' team. He'll be hopeful that you're correct. Henry II, as you say, a great horse that they've done very well with indeed. Okay, TC, what do you have for us throughout this weekend? Throughout Saturday, I suppose, plenty for you to choose from.
There was, but I don't love the undercard at either Sandown or over at Leopardstown, and I didn't love the Musselburgh card either, so I was struggling for a nap at next best. The nap, I'm going to stick with Django Bay and the Scilly Isles, the 235 at Sandown, for reasons already discussed. I just think he's definitely the best horse in the race. He'll stay and hopefully get the job done at a short enough price. The next best, I'm going to go to the all-weather. I know I can hear the groans in the comment sections already, but the next best is going to be Green Team, who runs in the 640 at Wolverhampton. Look, I'm not interested in the remainder of this card. He's the only all-weather horse that I like on Saturday. It was a poor ride last time that got him beat. He was sent off favourite after a really good runner-up display, actually, on his penultimate outing. He was running by a £7 claimer. He was 4 wide on the turn and just never given a chance. But he did stay on in the latter part of the race and actually performed pretty well, considering. If he can bounce back to something like his best with a good rider upgrade with Charlie Bishop taking the mount, I think he's capable of winning off a mark of 65. So Green Team in the 640 at Wolves is my next best.
Okay, he's still doing it. We thought you got you really sorted and solved, but there's no when there's Wolverhampton on and I can't even count. It looks like there's 9 races, but maybe there are 8. There's got to be something in there for TC. So as I said, Green Team to add to that once Leopardstown and all the racing at Sandown is over. On contrast to that, I have a couple of selections for you at Leopardstown on Saturday to enjoy the Dublin Racing Festival with. And the Juvenile Hurdle, the Grade 1, which is the second race of the day, has been sort of farmed by Willie Mullins. He's won the last 3 renewals. Haven't always gone with the favourites. Carguess won this at 7-2 last year. He's got a couple of lovely fillies, and he's talked up a lot of Lady Vega Allen in his stable tours and saying how great she is. She did get beaten by Hello Neighbour last time out when they met, but he said that she'd come forward. But it's actually San Lucy, who I'm pleased to say is the choice of Paul Townend. I've just checked the HRI rider information that I was really taken by when she won on debut for these connections, Rich Ritchie colours at Punchestown on New Year's Eve. She absolutely bolted up. It just showed a very good taking style. There's not a huge amount we can tell from the form, but I just liked the way she went about it. She's got a lovely pedigree. She's a daughter of Great Pretender out of the Saint-Mare. She should really enjoy a bit of deeper ground, which she'll get today, on Saturday. And I thought they were it was gritty watch, Hello Neighbour and Lady Vega Allen. I think she could be a little bit classier. So looking forward to seeing how she gets on. And then an old friend runs in the 225, the handicap hurdle over 3 miles. And this is Ted Walsh's mare, Galopin. Apologies to any Irish speakers out there. Now, she has ran in this race, I think, the last 2 renewals. She was second in it last year under Shane O'Callaghan off a mark of 129. She is £4 higher, but Josh Williamson takes £7 off, so that definitely helps. She always runs her race. She's about 16-1. I can see her fighting at the death. It's probably a stronger race than it was last year, but I think it's a good move having Josh taking that extra 7 off. So a couple of selections there for Sandown, and as I said, there is plenty for you to enjoy with that ACCA that SBK has on offer, which is a free Saturday racing ACCA. You have to opt in, and as mentioned again, 4 legs and that. There's also that 20% Saturday racing ACCA boost. Again, you've got to opt in with 4 legs. So we have rattled through the racing this weekend, and hopefully we found a few more winners. Make sure that you get to SBK. There's lots of other offers and promotions. If you have not signed up with SBK before, you'll be a new user and you'll get £40 in free bets when you do sign up and you bet £10 for the first time. And you, as I mentioned, you've got all those other offers for Saturday as well. So thanks to TC and to Ross. We'll be back next week. Have a lovely weekend.